How do you know that someone has run a marathon? Well, they tell you, of course. Well, hey, it's Jenny, and as I am here telling these stories and defining moments of my life, running the New York City Marathon was absolutely one of the highlights while also being one of the hardest things I've ever done. So, here's the story of how this all actually happened. No, I'm not a runner. I don't enjoy running, so don't think I'm one of those crazy people who do. But I did want to push myself in the physical area of my life. And so it was late 2018. I was in that time of year between the holidays where you have a little bit of quiet time. And I took those seven circles from the book, The One Thing, on page 114, I believe. And I just took some time with each of those seven categories on one piece of paper and I just journaled a bit, not a lot, just a little bit, about where I wanted to be someday, 20 years from now. And then I got to the physical area of my life and at a little bit more of a maturing age, I had noticed some changes in my body, in my mind, and I wanted to make sure that 20 years from now I was around, I was healthy, I was able to travel, to have fun, get up and down stairs, all the things that we would like to be in our aging life. And I was doing enough to get by. I would exercise a bit here or there, go for long walks, which is one of my favorites. But I definitely wasn't pushing myself. And so around that time I was just had it in my mind to start thinking about what would be a challenge that would really get me uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable, right? Like I'm one of those. Like I liked a challenge, but I also like my comfort zone. And so I was listening to a book at the time, and the author mentioned running marathons. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. I never want to do that. So I put it off to the side. But then I traveled to teach in California. My friend had me out to share with his market centers. And at the time, the California fires had just happened. And so we did a fundraiser at the break where we were raising money to go to those relief efforts of those in need. And the highest bidder got to have lunch with me, which I didn't think was very exciting, but I guess he did. And so as we have lunch with the highest bidder, his name was Chris, and he and Patrick, my friend, and I, and another leader go to lunch that day. And, the idea was that I was supposed to add some value to his life, but quickly I learned that I had a lot to learn from him. He'd been in real estate many years, but also at that point, I think he had run 33, 34 marathons, many of them Boston marathons. And his passion, as I asked more questions to figure all this out, his passion was helping women around my age to achieve this goal of something that they thought was never possible. And then they actually do it and succeed. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. I was just thinking about how I needed to push myself in the physical area of my life, but I hadn't quite come up with something. And I was like, but I don't know about this marathon thing. That seems like a bit much. So we part, we have a good time. I leave, I'm heading out of the office soon after, and he stops and he smiles at me and he says, I see a marathoner in you. Well, of course, he plants the seed. He asks if he can have a follow up call with me when I get back home. And what do you know? He turned into being my running coach, like I'd ever had a running coach before. And he just coached me around the mindset of running a marathon because that's what it really is. Yes, it's a physical feat for sure and a painful one, honestly, but it's all about our mindset first. So he sends me a book, and the book is called Ultimate Marathoner. I think I've got it up here on my shelf. And the idea is he shared with me, it's like the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is a blueprint for real estate success. It's like that for the running world. So I started reading a bit. I started kind of thinking maybe this is possible. And we have a call together later that he asked me some questions. He said, if this was to be something you would do, you know, would you prefer it to be in this temperature or this location? Do you like a crowd cheering you on? And I'm like, well, heck yeah, I need a crowd cheering me on. If I'm going to actually do this, I need some energy around me to keep me going. And so we decided on the New York City Marathon. Well, that was at the very beginning of 2019. November 8th or November 3rd was the actual marathon. I have the medal here to prove it. And so I put it on my calendar. And guess what you have to do what you should do when you run a large event, marathon running, any kind of experience like this? You have to plan ahead. You can't just hop out that day and do it. And so those were the lessons that I learned: the short runs, the long runs, the food, the hydration, the recovery, the physicality of lifting weights, like all of the different pieces that go along with just running for a really long time. In my case, it was a really long time, is a really big deal. And so I do remember every podcast or book I was listening to along the way as I was running up and down Riverside to get in those long runs, those extremely tiring runs. And then I would reward myself with some delicious pizza on that Saturday. I mean, it was a time commitment, it was a family commitment, and it was a life changing commitment, to be honest. In the end, my family went with me, my husband, my daughter, my parents, they cheered me on. I did it. I am so grateful that I did it. In fact, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm glad I made it through. It was very painful at some points. And if you were tracking me along the way, thank you for cheering me on. But there were points that I was about to give up. And then my mind allowed me to move forward even when my knee, my ankle were in so much pain. So I know you can do hard things. This is just a placeholder. A marathon is just a placeholder for doing something big, something that surprises you. It doesn't have to be a marathon, but could it be something that you've never done before? So, this is a great time of year to start thinking ahead for next year and building out a goal or a plan and getting some accountability around it so that you too can surprise yourself. Because that's honestly what this was for me. Running a marathon is something I'm really proud of, and I never really desire to do it ever again. So let me know what you have done big that you are really proud of, that was a defining moment for you. It taught you that you could be more than you thought was even possible. And I hope you enjoy this story, and let me know if you have any other fun topics or ideas you'd like me to discuss, because I'm up for it. See ya.